A Course in Miracles. Lesson 39. My holiness is my salvation. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? Like the text for which this workbook was written, the ideas used for the exercises are very simple, very clear, and totally unambiguous. We are not concerned with intellectual feats nor logical toys. We are dealing only in the very obvious, which has been overlooked in the clouds of complexity in which you think you think. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? This is not difficult, surely. The hesitation you may feel in answering is not due to the ambiguity of the question. But do you believe that guilt is hell? If you did, you would see at once how direct and simple the text is, and you would not need a workbook at all. No one needs practice to gain what is already his. We have already said that your holiness is the salvation of the world. What about your own salvation? You cannot give what you do not have. A Savior must be saved. How else can he teach salvation? Today's exercises will apply to you, recognizing that your salvation is crucial to the salvation of the world. As you apply the exercises to your world, the whole world stands to benefit. Your holiness is the answer to every question that was ever asked, is being asked now, or will be asked in the future. Your holiness means the end of guilt, and therefore the end of hell. Your holiness is the salvation of the world and your own. How could you, to whom your holiness belongs, be excluded from it? God does not know unholiness. Can it be he does not know his Son? A full 5 minutes are urged for the 4 longer practice periods for today, and longer and more frequent practice sessions are encouraged. If you want to exceed the minimum requirements, more rather than longer sessions are recommended, although both are suggested. Begin the practice periods as usual by repeating today's idea to yourself. Then, with closed eyes, search out your unloving thoughts in whatever form they appear: uneasiness, depression, anger, fear, worry, attack, insecurity, and so on. Whatever form they take, they are unloving and therefore fearful. And so it is from them that you need to be saved. Specific situations, events, or personalities you associate with unloving thoughts of any kind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. It is imperative for your salvation that you see them differently. And it is your blessing on them that will save you and give you vision. Slowly, without conscious selection and without undue emphasis on anyone in particular, search your mind for every thought that stands between you and your salvation. Apply the idea for today to each of them in this way: my unloving thoughts about blank are keeping me in hell. My holiness is my salvation. You may find these practice periods easier if you intersperse them with several short periods during which you merely repeat today's idea to yourself slowly a few times. You may also find it helpful to include a few short intervals in which you just relax and do not seem to be thinking of anything. Sustained concentration is very difficult at first. It will become much easier as your mind becomes more disciplined and less distractible. Meanwhile, you should feel free to introduce variety into the exercise periods in whatever form appeals to you. Do not, however, change the idea itself as you vary the method of applying it. However you elect to use it, the idea should be stated so that its meaning is the fact that your holiness is your salvation. End each practice period by repeating the idea in its original form once more and adding, if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? In the shorter applications, which should be made some 3 or 4 times an hour and more if possible, you may ask yourself this question, repeat today's idea, and preferably both. If temptations arise, a particularly helpful form of the idea is, my holiness is my salvation from this. Lesson 39. My holiness is my salvation. This lesson is not trying to teach something new. It is trying to remove what has been placed on top of what was never lost. We are not concerned with intellectual feats nor logical toys. That line is not dismissing intelligence. It is dismissing distraction disguised as intelligence. Intellectual feats are the trophies the ego collects to feel secure. Logical toys are puzzles that keep the mind busy without letting it rest. They give movement without direction. They give activity without arrival. They feel like progress while keeping the same position. Imagine a man trapped in a room with an unlocked door. Instead of turning the handle, he begins rearranging the furniture. Then he sketches blueprints of the room. Then he debates why the door might be locked. Then he teaches others about rooms. All the while, the exit remains untouched. That is what the Course calls logical toys. They decorate the prison instead of leaving it. We are dealing only in the very obvious. The obvious is not hidden, it is ignored. Like glasses already sitting on the face while the house is searched in panic. The search becomes frantic precisely because the answer is too close to be considered. Holiness is like that. Not distant, not earned, just overlooked. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? The question feels difficult only if guilt feels normal. Guilt often disguises itself as responsibility, as humility, as seriousness, as caring. But guilt is hell because it insists something is fundamentally wrong, something broken, something requiring punishment or repair. Hell is not fire. Hell is self-condemnation treated as truth. The hesitation in answering reveals something important. If guilt were fully recognized as hell, the answer would be instant. No pause, no debate, no workbook required. The pause shows guilt is still being negotiated with, still being justified, still being used as identity. No one needs practice to gain what is already his. Practice here does not acquire. Practice remembers. Practice removes interference, like wiping fog from a mirror that was never cracked. The reflection does not improve. It simply reappears. Your holiness is the salvation of the world. This does not mean holiness fixes the world. It means holiness ends the need to fix. The world is not healed by control. It is released by correction at the level of meaning. A savior must be saved because freedom cannot be taught while guilt is believed. Chains cannot explain liberation. Your holiness is the answer to every question. Every ego question reduces to the same assumption. What is wrong? What is missing? What needs to be fixed? Holiness answers before the question finishes forming. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is missing. Nothing was lost. The question dissolves rather than being answered. Search out your unloving thoughts. Unloving thoughts are not always dramatic. Often they sound reasonable. They whisper urgency. They predict threat. They rehearse defense. They assume vulnerability. Fear is guilt wearing practical language. Guilt always claims danger is real and personal. It is imperative for your salvation that you see them differently. This is not moral instruction. It is mechanical. Mistaking a rope for a snake produces fear. The fear does not come from the rope. It comes from the interpretation. Seeing differently corrects the cause, not the effect. Blessing situations is not generosity toward the world. It is release from hell. Hell is not imposed. Hell is maintained. My unloving thoughts about are keeping me in hell. Cause is reclaimed. Victimhood dissolves. Power returns to the mind. My holiness is my salvation. This is not aspiration. It is recognition. Holiness is what has never changed. Not behavior. Not personality. Not history. Holiness is the constant beneath the story. Salvation is not becoming better. Salvation is realizing nothing was wrong. Guilt says change is required for freedom. Holiness says freedom was never absent. And that recognition ends hell without effort. Quietly. Immediately. Without ceremony. That is lesson 39. Not a project. Not a ladder. Not a performance. Just the moment the mind stops arguing with what is.